shik edo shidine, she aniva yazinshye, ado shananish yahe Chief Executive Officer, Navajo Housing Authority, the Sita, ado February 2007 one ndashidis tinto shananish diche. I want to provide you updates and explain to you certain areas of interest about Navajo Housing Authority. Just recently, NHA has ended its 2013 fiscal year on September 30th, 2013. This year, we spent a total of $142 million on housing construction activities for our people. This surpasses our goal of $137 million. Why is this important? Because starting in 1998, years before I started working for NHA, the NHA began building up this amount until it reached over $300 million the year before I came on board. Since then, NHA has developed a multi-year plan that would reduce the unexpended funds each year. This amount built up because there were problems or barriers in spending the dollars. I'm sure you've heard and read in newspapers of many programs within the tribe that have problems in spending money, the latest of which is $14 million not spent by the Navajo Diabetes Program. Similarly, NHA faces similar issues for spending, and there are several reasons that lend to this profile. The first is the lack of available land. NHA can only build within land it initially withdrawn from the Navajo Nation years ago. With no new land made available for housing, that stymies housing construction. Number two are issues with lack of existing infrastructure. In a lot of our communities that are in very remote areas, there are no infrastructure, and infrastructure is the costliest component for development or new construction. And so funds have to be pooled in order to address development. And thirdly, as we comply with the program rules, funds have to be spent properly and in compliance with all federal requirements, or we get sanctioned, which creates further problems and delays. You may have heard much about what happened in Shiprock back in 2003, years before I started working with NHA. Last month, we were informed by HUD to repay $11 million for the housing reconstruction project because homes were not built properly and or timely. But NHA does not own the units, and NHA does not own the land in which the units reside. NHA merely financed the reconstruction of those homes. The U.S. government recognizes the barriers that we face in building homes on the reservation. This past summer, the U.S. Government Accountability Office came out for 4 days on the reservation and conducted a fact-finding to look into those barriers. They also went out to several other tribes across the country. The Government Accounting Office will soon release the study, early 2014. Thus, as you can see, it is a major accomplishment that we were able to spend $142 million in a single year. It's because of this funding buildup and others that two council delegates, who are members of the Resources and Development Committee, have waged an effort for the tribe to take over the TDHE status, which stands for the Tribally Designated Housing Entity, a title that would give the tribe all the federal housing funds NHA receives. Now, let me be very clear. NHA strongly opposes their efforts because it is not in the best interest of the Navajo people for the nation to become the designee for housing funds. Our position is based on several points. One, based on the tribe's track record in 1992, the tribe took over the federal Head Start program. Today, the program has been shut down twice and has gone from serving over 4,700 children at 121 Head Start centers to less than 2,000 children and 21 centers. This effort ruined the program and left many people without jobs and children not receiving the early intervention education that was needed to develop their minds for academic success. There are many other similar stories such as these. Number two, difficulty and complexity in handling the HUD programs. For example, just to build one home alone, there are 6 federal agencies that every housing dollar has to be counted for. Number one is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. That specifies all the procurement and administrative reporting requirements that a TDHE has to perform and comply with. Number two, as land is withdrawn and leases are approved, That triggers the interaction with the BIA under the U.S. Department of Interior and all their rules and regulations. Once land is withdrawn, we have to work with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to secure all the environmental review requirements. And then you have the U.S. Department of Labor to obtain wage decisions and labor reporting requirements. And then we have to then look through the U.S. Department of Treasury to access these funds through the line of credit control system and do reporting requirements. And last but not least, you have the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, where there are requirements under Circulars A-133 and A-87. So when you look at this, just for one home, and you multiply that by thousands, that is a lot of technical requirements that the tribe is not positioned, or any other entity at this point in time, to take over such a complex program. And number three, the tribe's own 2009 study said the tribe was not ready either. And I quote, "While such a designation is certainly a possible organizational structure within the regulations, it was determined during the study that CHID, the Community Housing and Infrastructure Department, is not ready to take over NAHASDA at this time, which is specified on page 94 of the 2009 report." It should be pointed out that the second study also did not identify any program of the Navajo Nation that was qualified to take over the NAHASDA administration. NHA receives about $80 to $85 million per year for housing, but this money is not in NHA's bank, but is held within the U.S. Department of Treasury. It is released on a cost reimbursement basis, which means after we complete an activity and the invoice needs to be paid, we submit that invoice along with the receipts to Treasury. We receive those funds and it is deposited into NHA's bank account, from which within no more than 3 days, we need to take that money and make the payments accordingly. So that is the process. Today, we have over 500 construction projects going across the reservation in various communities, and they are all in various stages of construction, from planning to pre-construction to construction to post-construction to inspections and to warranty and closeout. Sometimes the life of a project extends from 3 years to 5 years because of the remoteness and the infrastructure and the coordination that takes place with NTUA, Land Department, BIA, and all stakeholders. How many homes are needed? In 2009, we started a housing needs survey and published a report in August of 2011. We hired approximately 200 people who went to about 11,000 homes across the reservation and conducted a survey. We found out that we need a minimum of 34,000 new homes and another 34,000 homes that need to be upgraded and repaired. This equates to a total housing need of $9 billion. In 2011, because we had difficulty in getting land to build new houses upon, we took the initiative to develop a community master plan for all of the communities across the Navajo reservation. This sustainable master plan will tell us where housing is needed and the kinds of housings that are desired by the community members that include apartments, single-family homes, rental homes, transitional homes, college housing, etc. NHA started on this initiative so that we can identify land to place our housing upon. And therefore, this was an approach in which we would have the communities identify land sites in which they want to build homes for their community members. This is why we were working with all chapters so that they have master plans that will open up land sites for housing to be built upon and other forms of development. Many of you have probably heard about this in your communities. For this project, Sustainable Community Master Planning, we've received numerous awards in recent months from professional entities, the Planning Association chapters from the states of Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. And that verifies and validates that the process that we're taking is the right approach. We have also started another project, which is expanding our homeownership program. In March of 2013, we presented to our board, and the board approved new homeownership programs for our people. This vision is to provide housing options to all levels of income, so that we are not limited to low income. We can provide a home product for all our families, regardless of income. And we will have a product in which you will have a home that is affordable for that individual family. Because of the lack of housing, many of our people have left the reservation. Census says 60% now live off the reservation for jobs and housing opportunities. The new NHA housing program will be unveiled this spring. How will this new program be different? We will be able to serve not only low income, but our middle income families, our working families, and our professionals who are in the higher income range will also be made available to. If you qualify by your income, then you will be eligible for a house. This is the new financing program that will be offered by Navajo Housing Authority. We are also analyzing ways in which we want to look at grant programs for our truly indigent, those that are truly living below poverty lines, that are disabled and or elderly. There are many other initiatives we are contemplating. One project requires use of sophisticated computer technology to accurately map out housing units. And so we are looking at ways to use our new land information management system for rural 911 addressing and for flood delineation studies and developing mitigation plans so that we can minimize or eliminate any impacts for any future flooding to our communities. We are looking at revitalization programs for existing development sites that were not designed and thought out well from the beginning. And we've received awards for these types of initiatives as well. And so NHA is on the verge of a new way of thinking, a new way of bringing homes to our families, and truly addressing a home for every Navajo family. We have the capacity, and we should be left to remain the tribally designated housing entity for the Navajo Nation, because for the very first time, we have built those capacities in-house. And we are looking at ways of not only building housing, but to also create businesses to provide jobs for our families. You cannot have a home without a job, and you can't have a job without a home. They're integral. We recognize that. Those are other initiatives we plan to initiate this year as well. Thank you for your attention. Ahehe.